Hey, what's going on everybody? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at creating fireworks inside of Blender. Let's get into it. Alright, so I have a default scene open inside of Blender. I'm using 2.81, and we can go ahead and delete everything in our scene for right now. And let's go ahead and import in an icosphere. And we can go ahead and scale this down quite a bit. About right there should be fine. So the main thing we're going to be doing is animating our icosphere up on the z-axis, and then we're going to be using a particle system to generate our firework explosion. So on the first frame here, let's go ahead and add in a keyframe. I'll do location, rotation, scale, and I'll come to about frame 60, and I'll animate this up on the z-axis a little bit. About right there should be fine, and I'll add in another keyframe. And this is our animation that we have right here, and I'll just go one frame further, so I'll go to frame 61, and I'll actually just scale this up just a bit like that and add in one more keyframe. So now this is the animation we have. It comes up, and then one keyframe after, it scales up a little bit bigger. Let's come back to the first keyframe here, and scroll out a bit, and I'm going to duplicate this and put it to the side. And let's actually delete these keyframes for it. So let's go ahead and add in a material for this. So I'll come down here, add in a new material, and we'll change it from principled to emission. And I'll give it a pink color, and I'll bring up the strength to a 2. Actually, let's go into rendered view real quick. So this is what it's going to look like. We can always come to our render settings and turn on bloom under our bloom settings and maybe increase the intensity a little bit. Right there is fine. And I'm going to duplicate this a couple more times. So right there. And let's actually name these just to keep it a little bit more organized. So I'll name this one pink. And for this one right here, we can name it something like main, or if you want to do like firework 1 should be fine. So that should be good. And for this second one, let's come down to our material settings. I'll clear the material for that and add in a different color. This time I'll do like this blue color. And I'll name this one blue. And for right now, do one more, clear the material over here, and I'll change it to like a red and name this red. Alright, so one more thing I'm going to add. I'm going to import a plane here, and I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis by 90, and I'll scale it in on the y as well, right there. And then I'll scale this down quite a bit and just bring that off to the side. Let's add in a new material for this one too. Change it to an emission, and I'll give it an orange color. Bring the strength up. So now this is what we have right here. So now we can go ahead and get ready to add in our particles. So go ahead and select the main firework there, go to the particle settings down here, add in a new particle system, and this one is going to be for the sparks. So I'll just name this sparks, and I'll increase the number to like 2500. And for the end frame right here, I'm going to do like 55 because we have our animation right here stopping at frame 60. And I want the sparks just to stop a few frames before that. So 55 should be fine. And I'll change the lifetime to 4. Maybe increase the lifetime randomness a bit. So now we can see this is what we have so far. Alright, so now to get the sparks in there, come down to render and render as, change it from halo to object. And under here in instance object, let's change that to spark, which would be our plane. So let me go ahead and change that real quick. Just name it sparks. Alright, so now you can see that it's emitting the little sparks that we made, but they're kind of facing the wrong way. All we have to do is come down to object rotation right here under the render settings and select that. And now you can see that they're rotated the way that we want. And let's actually come to our world settings and change the color to black just so we can see everything a little bit better. And if you want to change the look of the spark trail, you can always come to the particle settings and maybe increase the lifetime a bit. So if you doubled it to 8, you can see that the trail is a little bit longer. I'll keep that at 4 though. And if you wanted it to be a little bit wider or narrow, you can come down to the velocity settings and you can change that. So if I did like a 0.2, it'll make it a little bit more narrow like that. Or if you increased it to something like 3, yeah, you can see right there that the trail is a little bit wider, but I like it at 1. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so let's go ahead and play this. I think that looks pretty good for right now, so let's go ahead and add in our main explosion here. So I'll add in a new particle system. I'll increase this number, let's do like 8,000 for now. And for the frame start, I'm going to choose 70 and have it end on 72. And since our spark animation stops at 60, I just want to have a little bit of a pause before the firework actually goes off. So that's why I chose 70. We can increase the lifetime to 70 and increase the lifetime randomness a bit. Under the velocity, let's change this to 0.5. Down in the render, let's change it from halo to object. And the instance object, let's choose pink. And down here under the field weights, we're going to have to turn the gravity pretty much all the way down here. I'll do like a 0.2. So now you can see this is what we have so far. It's looking pretty good. Alright, so if we come up here to emission and under our source, we can see that it's emitting from the faces right here. We can change that to volume and it'll kind of change the look of where our particles are being emitted from. Right there, I think that looks a little bit better. And what we can do to kind of fill in these like little gaps right here, if we come down to the physics and we can increase the Brownian right here, and what this does, it pretty much changes the movement of the particles over time. So you can see right here that it kind of fills in those empty spots over time. Maybe I'll turn it down just a bit. And I also just like to add a little bit of damping, like a 0.01. You don't want to turn that up too much. Maybe come down here, increase the scale randomness a little bit. And we can go ahead and add in our second color for our fireworks. So let's add in a new particle system. Let's maybe make this like 6500. And I want to offset this just by a couple frames. So this one ends on 72. I'm going to have this one start on frame 72 and end on 74. Let's increase the lifetime to like 70 and increase the lifetime randomness right there. And we'll come back to the source in just a moment. Let's go ahead and make the velocity a 0.5. And under the render settings, let's change it to object, object and instance object. And let's make this one blue. You can see right here, we just have to change the gravity settings. So under field weights, almost all the way. We can see here, that's looking pretty good. And something that I like to do for the second color is if we come back up to the source, if we change it from faces to verts, it kind of just shoots out from where the vertices are on our emitter object. So it kind of comes out in like this straight line, which I think looks pretty cool. And then something you can do, maybe if you want it to come out like that at first, but then like spread out over time, we can always come back down and increase the Brownian right there. So now if we see, you can see it kind of comes out as that line first, and then it starts to fill out over time, which I think looks pretty cool. And it's pretty much just rinse and repeat for as many fireworks as you want. I mean, you could duplicate this, but the only thing about that is if you duplicate this icosphere, you'd have to duplicate and then offset these keyframes right here. And then you'd have to update the location properties, and not to mention the start and end frame properties for all the particle systems right here. So at that point, you may as well just start from scratch, and I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, so right here you can see I added in another icosphere. I just have it in a different position, and I repeated the process for the animation and the particle systems for the sparks right here. Now if we come up here, I have this second one stopping at 80, so if I go ahead and make another particle system real quick, I'll change this to 8,000, and because it's stopping at frame 80, I'll have this particle system start on frame 90 and end on 92. Increase the lifetime, up the randomness, bring the velocity to 0.5, and under the render, I'll change it to object, and this time I'll choose red. Gonna come down to the field weights and bring this almost all the way down. Alright, so let's go ahead and come up to the emission settings and change it to volume. Come down to physics, add a little bit of damping, increase the Brownian. Right there, that's looking pretty good. And something you can actually do for the secondary color is instead of an icosphere, you can make it another shape and it'll give like a little bit of a different look to your animation. If I come back to object and I come down here, I'm going to add in a cylinder. I'm going to go ahead and scale this up on the Z and then scale it down a bit. If I come in here, I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier to it. Go ahead, shade smooth, and I'm going to duplicate this and rotate it on the X by 90, and I'll duplicate it one more time and rotate it on the Z by 90. Can box select all of them and Control J to join, and scale this down just a little bit and bring it off to the side. Let's go ahead and add in a material for this. New, go ahead and give it an emission, and this time I'll do a green color and up the strength to 2, and let's actually name this green. And let's come back to our second firework here, and under the particle settings, let's add in a new particle system. I'll give this like a 6500. The frame start, I'm going to do 94, and the frame end, let's do 96. Let's up the lifetime a bit and increase the randomness. Velocity 0.5. Down here in the render, object, and let's do the green this time. And come down to our field weights, bring the gravity down again. Let's zoom in a bit here. You can see that it kind of adds like this spark or like this star look to it. I think that looks pretty cool. And let's come back up. Let's increase the brownie in a bit. Increase the damping. And come up to the emission, and under source, let's change that to verts. And let me zoom out. I'm going to go ahead and play this. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good. That's all I'm going to do for this tutorial, but you can always go ahead and add in as many colors as you want. And also, if you're going to render this out, make sure you go to your particle settings, and we're going to come down to viewport display and make sure this isn't checked, so that way your icosphere isn't visible in your render. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I know it's not super detailed, but I think it could work for like a basic animation. But either way, I think that this could be a good way to practice getting familiar with particle systems, especially if you're someone who's never used them before. But that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.